We're back at the Carnegie Library in Squirrel Hill, a bibliophile's paradise and a great place to celebrate our region's authors. Consider these statistics. More than 7 out of 10 Pittsburgh residents aged 13 to 36 have a Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh library card. And system-wide, users borrowed about 3.5 million items from the Carnegie Library last year. These are statistics that would have brought a smile to our next subject, Benjamin Franklin. He came up with the idea of a subscription library and in 1732 hired America's first librarian, Lewis Timothy. 225 years after his death, we're still surprised at the myriad accomplishments of Ben Franklin, who, according to author Blaine McCormick, was also America's original entrepreneur. This is a really cool project, pulling it out of Ben Franklin's original autobiography, but I've got to ask you, college professor, Baylor, Texas, mastering the Ben Franklin story. How did that come about?
It came about rather by accident. I think the key thing is I grew up in a small family business, and Franklin was a small businessman, and ultimately worked in corporate and then became a business professor, and checked out the autobiography on tape one day and listened to it during my commute. And as an adult, with this business experience behind me, realized this was the greatest business story kind of never told, and I wanted to take it to a wider audience. It's not his diplomatic years, it's his business years. And
that would surprise a lot of people. I mean, I think I had to read it when I was in high school or college or whatever it was, but even now I tend to think of Ben Franklin more as the guy sitting in Independence Hall at the time of the Declaration of Independence.
Or flying the kite.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true. You have the great, there's a great story of the scientists, the electricity, and all of that.
But the entrepreneur is not the one that people think of, even though it's the image that pretty much dominates the autobiography, from his getting the start in his own print shop to running the most successful newspaper in colonial America to the best-selling reference work, Poor Richard's Almanac, goes on and on. I mean, the empire got to be pretty amazing. We could go into detail on that if you want, or go elsewhere.
Well, yeah. I mean, how big did he get from those small beginnings? I mean, can you characterize it?
He wasn't the richest man in colonial America, but I would say he was definitely one of its most successful media players. His newspaper was sold up and down the coast. He franchised his print shops up and down the coast, as far south as the Carolinas, as far north as Massachusetts. If he wanted to move a message up and down the colonial seaboard with newspapers, he was Postmaster General, that's the distribution routes. If he wanted to move a message, he controlled his, I mean, it's a bit of a stretch, but the colonial internet, for lack of a better phrase, he could do it, and he knew how. And very influential player.
Well, was that all by design, or did it just sort of emerge out of just a basic desire to open the next print shop or do a business?
I don't think he had a master plan for world domination, but he was an opportunist. He was a good businessman, and he just saw a lack of quality here. When he took over the post office, he invented the odometer to find the shortest route between the two towns, so he could do it. So he just put in a lot of efficiencies, and that just led and fueled the growth. The basic scientific curiosity drove the growth in a lot of ways, and just expanded the opportunity.
Wow. Translated later, relevant to his diplomatic work, his political work, and everything else? Does it all make sense together somehow?
I think it makes sense together, and he understood influence and how to move messages. For his diplomatic years, I think the key thing was that he was very likable. To succeed in business, I think you have to be very likable to get people to come back, to get them to want to do business with you in the first place. And as a diplomat, he succeeded in doing a number of good things for America just because he was likable. The French liked him, they wanted to cooperate with him. And he succeeded more in the 3 a.m. salons in Paris, as in gaining resources for the American cause than some of our other diplomats did in formal sessions, let's put it that way.
Now, and this is something you're using in your career. You're teaching Ben Franklin when you're teaching business at Baylor?
I'm teaching Ben Franklin whenever I teach in business schools. The autobiography used to be required reading in American business, not necessarily in a university system per se, but all the great names, Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Mellon, Stephen Covey, Warren Buffett, Lee Iacocca, they've all referenced back to the autobiography and said this was influential in my life. So I just want to take it in, update it, get it out to a new generation of readers.
And obviously online, I picked this up at a local bookstore right here in Pittsburgh, so it's all over the place.
All over the place, in bookstores, online, anywhere.
Yeah, well, it's real exciting. Number one lesson you've learned from studying Ben Franklin that you think would do every entrepreneur?
Well, the likability one has already been mentioned, but if there was a second one, I would say a key to success in entrepreneurship is just working hard. Franklin didn't pull any punches. He worked hard. He watched his cost. He said the way to wealth is as plain as the way to market. And you know, it depends chiefly upon two things, basically hard work and watching your costs. There's no national treasure type secret needed, let's say.
Well, there you go. And there are plenty more. The book's called Ben Franklin, America's Original Entrepreneur, adapted by Blaine McCormick. And thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll uncover the secret of why some products are simply built to love. Stay with us.